What's up, everyone? Tonight, we bring you the Persistence and Tenacity podcast. When I was 19 years old, going to a commercial gym. At that gym, there was a woman in her mid 40s. She was probably 5'8, 5'9, and around 200 pounds. She wasn't small, but she could do a few good neutral grip pull-ups. One time, while working out on the other pull-up bar, I stopped and talked to her, asking her about how she trained to be able to do pull-ups. And with a big cheesy grin on her face, she unzipped her gym bag and had a whole lot of powerlifting style resistance bands in there. I know there's a lot online saying that don't use resistance bands as a way to lighten the load on pull-ups. Do negatives. But there are people who have made it work, and I heard this woman's story firsthand that day. For a few years at that point, 2.5, 3 years, she'd been doing pull-ups twice a week, no missed days. She said she did a little bit of research online, found an answer that was use band assistance, and she went out and ordered all the powerlifting resistance bands, from the little red one all the way up to the super thick gray band. And she started as soon as they arrived using the gray band until she could get, I believe it was sets of 8. 3 sets of 8 was her progression. She could easily, and that was a key, it had to be easy. When she could easily do 3 sets of 8, she would lower the band assistance, upping the resistance. And she kind of laughed, saying that lower the band assistance, up the resistance, because it just sounds funny. I remember she laughed and grinned again. And over the span of about 1.5 to 2 years, twice a week, band assistant pull-ups, and just every time her 3 sets of 8 was easy, she went to a little less assistance, until she got her first pull-up. She said she had done pull-up, chin-up, I call chin-up underhand, pull-up overhand, and neutral grip. She mostly trained neutral grip because it's what she liked the feel of the best. Everyone has a grip on the pull-up bars that feels best to them. I think you should use every grip possible for varied stimulus, but if you have one that feels best, do that one that feels best. And that brings me on to the second and related topic. Doing pull-ups at 295, 297 pounds, I keep running into the issue that while I can do a set of 3 to 5, every time I've done pull-ups this year, which has only been about a half dozen sets in the last 2 months, every time I do pull-ups, it bugs my bicep tendon in my right arm, which was basically the first thing I always felt working as a mover. If I wasn't recovering, the thing I would feel first would always be my bicep tendons. Could be right arm, could be left arm, could be both. I would feel the bicep tendon. So I've been running into the issue this year where every time I try to do pull-ups, I bug the bicep tendon and go back to just doing kettlebell. Third topic, weighted push-ups. Weighted push-ups are probably my favorite pressing stimulus. But I do weighted push-ups with people standing on my upper back. These weighted push-ups come out to, if you do the nerd math says I'm benching somewhere in the mid 3s generally, depending on the size of the person, depending on my exact body weight. I think the weighted push-up correlates very closely to your bench strength. It's just a bit different overall. You don't have the leg drive and the glute drive. You have the abs stabilizing more in a weighted push-up versus on a bench. Same pressing stimulus, different peripheral muscles being hit. I think the weighted push-up is actually better, a muscle building, a strength building, a power building stimulus It's just less convenient most of the time. And this is where we tie it all in together. At a commercial gym years back, when I didn't have a training partner for the weighted push-ups, what I would do is I would put a band across my back, the powerlifting type bands, and I would do band resisted weighted push-ups. I'm sure, I was going to joke that Louis Simmons is turning over in his grave, but Louis Simmons would probably be all for that. Louis Simmons seemed to hit every variation, hit your triceps hard, and you can't do a band resisted push-up without hitting your triceps hard. It's the band's accommodating resistance. It does it automatically. I might do only partial range when I'm doing push-ups most of the time, but I put that band across my back and I go all the way up. I don't stop at half, 3/4. I go all the way up. And you're starting chest on the ground because you have to get the band across your back. I bought the full set of bands recently, and though I've only had them a half week, I'd used them for months at a time in the past. I just went years without having the bands. Like kettlebells, where I just step outdoors and lift in my backyard, the bands are something where I can do more than just push-ups, more than just Hindu squats, while still standing in the kitchen. I have that full body home gym, kitchen spot bodybuilding training going. Having a blast with it. It's a few days in. When I was in my teens, I had bought a light band, the yellowish orange Elite FTS one. Dating myself. Back then in the market, Elite FTS was the only thing on the powerlifting type resistance band market. This time around, I ordered the full set from Rep Fitness just because I know the company name and I've had good luck with kettlebells from them. My only other real option for relatively affordable to get a whole set was some company I'd never heard of through Amazon otherwise, and I, in this case, went with the brand I know versus the brand I don't. Sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't. I've bought a kettlebell once with a brand I'd never heard of where the bell was bomb. That was my adjustable bell from North Gym. Highly recommended. It's a great bell. I think it's a better design than most of the competition adjustable kettlebells on the market. North Gym, 16 to 32 kilos at every 2 kilo jump. Great bell. Worth I think I paid $250 and the prices have went up to $300, but it's worth the $300. That's an entire lifting gym in one bell for a few $100, which is a year's dues, half a year's dues, in some areas 2 months dues of your gym. Highly recommended. I like my training to have no excuse. That's why from the time I was 14 years old, push-ups have been my first thing, and sometimes my only thing. From there, Hindu squats become my next thing. Then you add whatever back, bicep stimulus you have access to. It can be only pull-ups, it could be only deadlifts, it could be only kettlebell, only sandbag. Mixing all these things, if you have no equipment, it can be flexing. If you have no equipment, you can flex. People think, oh, I have no equipment. No, you have calisthenics, you have flexing. You'll be good. Might not be ideal, but you'll be able to make it work if you put in the effort. Even though you can put in the effort with almost nothing, with absolutely zero even as far as equipment, you want to make it more fun for yourself, and it's more enjoyable, and you can get better results with just small amounts of equipment. I bought those bands for that purpose. I remembered that anecdote of what the woman told me when I was a teen, how she trained to doing strict pull-ups as the person you would least expect in the gym to be doing good pull-ups. And she did it with bands. I factored in how badly every time I did pull-ups, how the tendon bugged me and I wouldn't do pull-ups again for a week. I factored that in, thought I'd never tried band pull-ups before. I know from first-hand anecdote that they work for some people, so I bought myself the bands with the idea that the bands would make me go from close to 300 pounds to closer to 200 pounds. I figured the tendon could handle that. And I've trained pull-ups already. I did about 8 sets. Each set was 4 or 5 reps, severely lightened, versus that being 1 set without the assistance and done for the day. So the bands are working for the weighted pull-ups. Getting ahead of myself. The bands are working for training pull-ups. They're allowing me to do more volume. As it goes on, they'll allow me to do more reps per set, and I'll just drop the band size as I improve. They're allowing me to, in the kitchen, train weighted push-ups. Keep wanting to say weighted pull-ups. They're allowing me to train weighted push-ups again. I've had a blast with that. The medium band, green, was a hard set of 10, so I have a guideline to improve from already. Each day that I've had the bands, I've done some band-resisted weighted push-ups. And what was just amusing me, that light band I had as a teenager, I remember I couldn't always overhead press it, and when I could, it was very, very hard to one-arm overhead press. I'm a lot heavier now. I've been lifting for a lot more years now. The medium band, I can rep both hands, weak and strong sides, overhead. So I have a very convenient tool for training accommodating resistance overhead press. You can use a band from a million angles. I was simulating like a bow and arrow, yielding isometric hold, doing rows with it, doing half hammer curls, because that was as far up as I could make the hammer curl go. A band is one of many tools that are no excuse. I like people, even if they have a gym membership, to have some home training equipment. Adjustable kettlebell is the first thing. As I'm rediscovering, have bands. It's just better overall to have some weights, some bands, to have more than just your calisthenics, though you can make that work. Until next time, persistence and tenacity.